My name is Average Joe, and I'm a proud geek with expertise in movies, superheroes, and animation.
My name is Beef Pork Ribs. I'm a fine repository of esoteric knowledge, which I suppose most people would qualify as geeky. Though I dabble in many fandoms, my main areas of expertise are anime, movies, and Belgian comics, with a strong recent insurgency of D&D.
Our mission is to bring nerd and geek culture to the masses
by sticking it all under the microscope.
Welcome to the Bat Jar Podcast.
Movies, comics, graphic novels, TV, cartoons, animation, nerds or geeks, entertainment culture. Hear it on the Bat Jar, Nerdy Power. Nerds and geeks, come gather around the scene. Come and join us in the Bat Jar. Come and tune into Average Joe and his team. Lots of room here in the Bat Jar. When the newest nerdy news drops, these podcast pals put it under the scope. DC, Marvel, Disney, Star Wars, cinematic, multiverse. It's mega Christmas, strangest franchise. Hear it on the Bat Jar, Nerdy Power.
Hello there, and welcome to the Bat Jar Podcast, where we put nerd and geek culture under the microscope.
And sometimes, Beef Pork Ribs just says stuff based on what other people say, so we'll see how that works out.
So this is very exciting, Beeper. At the time of our recording, we actually, it was I can't believe it's already been a week, but we saw each other in person a week ago.
Yeah, for the first time in 3 years or something.
That was just crazy to me because, obviously we've been doing this podcast together and it didn't
do see each other through a camera.
Yeah,
regularly,
I guess it was just
more than most of my friends back east. So
it was just very surreal to me. It's like, oh yeah, I've experienced a lot with this person, but I actually haven't been in the same room as him for almost 3 years.
Yeah, I've never had it be that long. Like, I've had that kind of a feeling with some of my friends when I moved to Alberta for 2 years to do my ed degree. But then I knew exactly how long it had been and I was coming back. It wasn't just like a visit after a certain amount of time had gone by and then just being like, oh, wow. Yeah.
But needless to say, it was very nice to meet Jam in person, and it was really my first time seeing you and Mjolnir since you had gotten married. So it was nice to check out your wedding photos and,
Yeah.
Beeper gave me the full first class experience, folks. Not only did he pick me up from the airport, but he made me an omelet in the shape of a Batman symbol.
Yeah, we'll pretend that was on purpose. And then I realized I missed the opportunity to meet your fiance by maybe like parking or dropping you off a little bit later or taking a little longer, and I dropped you off at the hotel. Though, again, I didn't think of it until afterwards because I was like, well, I've met her over camera.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I got to see my brother who lives in Alberta as well during my time in the driest province on the planet.
Oh, did you suffer from that?
Well, I was in a hotel for most of my time, so that didn't help things either because generally the air in hotels is pretty dry. Yeah. But yeah, my eyes were pretty dried up, and then also the inside of my nose was pretty dry.
But you didn't have nosebleeds? Because I know some people when they move to Alberta that happens to them. It happened to me the first winter I was here. Like, I would get pretty regular nosebleeds.
I mean, there was a lot of blood in my snot. So
Maybe.
Huh. Anyway, all I had to say, it was great to see you in person. Thank you for your hospitality. And we didn't take advantage of it just wasn't good time. I didn't want to bring all my podcast gear to Alberta, so we didn't record an episode when we were together.
And I mean, we hung out for long enough to do an episode, but it would have really cut into the time as well. That was not very ample.
Yeah, and ironically, I feel like some of the conversations that you and I and Mjolnir had would have been the kind of things we'd talked about on the podcast anyway.
Yeah, that was. But I mean, all three of us are nerds and geeks, and we talk about those kind of things. It's one of the main things we have in common. And well, you and I also talked about your work and life a little bit, so
yeah.
Honestly, we did talk a decent amount about weddings and wedding prep and things around that. So
yeah, hey, that we could always do an episode on wedding episodes.
Does that count as a geek or?
Maybe like weddings and marriages in superhero fiction. We can get into how Spider-Man sold his marriage to the devil or something.
And how none of the marriages ever work. And I mean, I'd agree to that only if we also talk about Hancock.
We could also just talk about how marriages in the Dragon Ball series basically just make all female characters irrelevant.
Oh.
Except for Bulma. She somehow gets away with it.
Kind of, but after she, not after she gets married, but after she has a child, her role kind of just disappears.
Yeah. Anyway, that's not why we're here today. And just to cap off the, in-person discussion, as you said, when you drop me back off, let's make sure it's less than 3 years before we actually see each other again.
Oh yeah.
But today, we're recording this on the penultimate day of the Christmas liturgical season. So when this episode goes out, I think it'll officially be ordinary time again.
So
but
we can't
heck,
Merry Christmas,
it's still Merry Christmas today. So hope everyone had a good Christmas. Merry Christmas, Beeper.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, Average Joe. I hope it was an above average Christmas season. Yes.
And then we both had our birthdays since our last episodes too. So we're once again the same age.
Oh yeah, that's true. That didn't last. We didn't record while you were older.
No, but I guess we did visit during that brief window. And
I did comment on your elderliness.
Yes.
I believe.
Now, this is one of my favorite episodes we do every year. It's a ranking of the comic book films that were released in the calendar year. I know, Beeper, since you've been on the show full time, it's been mostly pandemic. So last year we did a combined episode where we talked about films released in 2020 and 2021 and it made for a longer list.
Oh, right. Yeah, it was.
But if you go back, and we've been doing this since 2017. So if you really wanted to be a completionist, you could go back and watch our ranking of 2017, 2018, 2019. And then last year was 2020 and 2021. But we're now here at 2022. There are 11 comic book films that were released in theaters this year. And we've since the beginning, we've made this distinction of only talking about films that got a theatrical release. This was originally set up because I didn't want to make space for every direct-to-video superhero movie that gets released.
I feel like, especially since we do consider things based on graphic novels and manga as well, there's a lot. I feel like there's a lot more anime movies that don't get theatrical release too that we'd have to be looking at, and it would kind of shift what most of we're talking about, even though they are getting more and more actual theatrical release, anime movies as it's getting more popular. But I feel like there are a lot of direct-to-DVD or not theatrical release anime movies that come out too that we'd have to look at. And
now, do you remember
random films too?
Did I ever explain to you, Beeper, why we clarify a film has to have been released in theaters beyond the exclusion of direct-to-video stuff?
Was it so that you could actually go see it because you used to go see all the movies that?
It was mostly to stay in line with what the Academy Awards say. In order for for a movie to qualify for an Oscar, it has to have played in theaters for at least a week or something, or a couple days. So admittedly, for us, it kind of just narrows down the pool a little bit. And admittedly, now that we're in 2022, or 2023 even, I'm wondering if in future years we should loosen our criteria because more and more content is being made for streaming as opposed to just theatrical releases. For example, there was a movie that was released on Amazon Prime this year called Samaritan, starring Sylvester Stallone, which I discovered was based on a comic book, an obscure comic book. But because it was a direct-to-streaming movie, it doesn't reach the criteria we've set up.
My first instinct was to say, well, maybe if it was if it had a pay to watch period or a premium access period, then we'd do it, but not if it went directly. But I don't know. It could be interesting. We could also just make a list and then, because I feel like if we expand it too much, we might miss some. So get at least the one with theatrical releases, and then We could also just do like honorable mentions too, if there aren't too many.
Yeah, so honorable mentions to Samaritan, and then both the Marvel Studios special presentations that came out this year. So that's Werewolf by Night and the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special.
Hey, I saw that one.
I did too. I enjoyed it. But again, it's not on the list because it wasn't released in theaters.
Yeah. It was a thing. Honestly, as far as holiday specials go, it wasn't terrible.
Yeah. There were also like 4 different comic book films that were originally meant to be released in 2022 that had now been pushed into 2023. So can you think of any of them off the top of your head? I'll give you a hint. 3 of them are DC movies.
Yeah. Was it the Batwoman that got canceled completely?
So I wasn't even counting Batgirl.
Okay, but that one was supposed to come out this year, wasn't it?
That was supposed to be an HBO Max movie, so
so it wouldn't
have not made the list either.
So it's Shazam 2.
Shazam: Fury of the Gods. Yep, that's coming out next year now.
The other Joker movie? No,
that's not. But maybe you're thinking of The Flash, which features Michael Keaton as Batman.
Oh yeah, yes, I was. Yeah, the Flashpoint movie.
Yeah. And then there was a third DC movie that got pushed to next year.
Oof.
It involves water.
Oh, I thought the Aquaman was pushed forward.
What? No, it was originally supposed to come out this December, right around the time.
Right, it got pushed back. It got pushed back and now has been pushed forward from the pushback. Right? Yeah. Right, okay, yeah.
So it's not coming out till like next December.
I was going to say that one, but then I remembered the last time we talked about it was pushed forward, so.
And then the 4th movie that was supposed to come out this year that got delayed, it's animated and involves a certain verse of characters. Spider-Verse, perhaps?
Oh, that was delayed? I thought that was always supposed to come out.
No, that was originally supposed to come out this past October.
Oh, okay.
And it got pushed to next June.
Hopefully for good reasons, but it's hard to tell. Or
with that one, it sounds
Sony trying to not compete with itself.
Yes, I mean with that one, it sounds like it was more so the animation that required more time.
Well, I mean, I don't know. With everything that's going on with VFX, it's nice to know that some animators are getting more time to get things done properly.
Yes. So with that being said, with more content being made for streaming and movies being pushed into 2023, this leaves us with only 11 films to rank for 2022.
That's not a bad list still.
Yeah, so this is a list of films based on comic books, which includes manga. So that means there's going to be anime films in here. And this is, again, movies that got a release in North America. So there's probably other anime films or whatever films of that nature that just didn't get released in North America. Our official Bat Jar rating system is pretty empirical by my impression. We have like 8 different categories that factor into the official ranking. Do you recall, Beeper, what any of them are?
So there is the IMDb audience score.
That's correct. That's one of them.
The Rotten Tomatoes score.
Yeah, Rotten Tomatoes audience score, and then the critic, the tomato meter of critics.
The tomato meter. That's 3 so far.
That's 3.
And we've got the Bat Jar community.
Yes. This year it seems like it's just you and me, so that's what you're 1, and then I'm 1.
Oh, okay, cool.
That's 5.
I was gonna say the other one is you, right, or the hosts. And then
there's 3 more.
Metacritic?
Not Metacritic. We do something called cinema.
Box office success.
That's right. So we got domestic box office and then international box office. And
then amount of Oscars is one. No, because we couldn't do that.
Now the last one's Cinema Score. That's a more obscure rating system. Are you familiar with Cinema Score?
Yeah. It's vaguely. I don't know how they do it, but I'm aware of its existence.
It's basically exit polling. They literally go up and ask people who've just walked out of a theater how they would rate a movie.
Oh, right. Yeah. We talked about that. I think the first time I was made aware of that was, I think the first time I was made aware is when we did the Sonic episode, because Sonic did really, really well in that one, because everybody was going in with low expectations, and
yes,
we're really
so
happy.
Cinema Score is helpful because a lot of the online stuff can be doctored, because people can either like upvote something because they think it's great, or they can downvote something because they think it's bad.
Yeah.
And my
It's
Cinema
still
Score is only a
arbitrary
sampling
system, but it's a less influential arbitrary system.
Yes, so we've got all kinds of metrics of quality. What are critics saying? What are audiences saying? What is the internet saying? What is the money saying? What are we saying? There's all kinds of factors here. So, this is arguably pretty, it's not like I realize, again, I bring this every year. I'm just acknowledging that my own rating is of equal value to all critics on Rotten Tomatoes and all people on IMDb. But you know what? It's our podcast.
It's our podcast. So, yeah. Well, it's Average Joe's podcast. So deal with it.
Yes. All right. So we're going to get into the official ranking here now. Are you ready, Beeper?
I was born ready. Well, no, I wasn't, but I got ready for this episode. Yes.
Now I gotta say, when I was looking at this list, there weren't too many amazing movies. I think there were a lot of movies that I had problems with, and we'll get into that. So I'm not looking forward to this. But here we go. In dead last,
number 11.
Number 11. An average score of 8 across the board. Something I decided to track here this year is like gold, silver, and bronze medals. Okay. And then participation medals for like the worst scores.
Okay.
So this movie has 3 participation medals, which means it has the worst ranking in 3 different categories.
Okay.
And then has an average score of 8 out of 11, meaning it's skewing towards the bottom in most areas. This is Morbius.
Oh, yeah, okay. that tracks.
What would you do if you could be normal?
I would find a cure for us.
After years, it's finally possible.
You did it. You found a cure.
No, Milo. It's a curse.
What happened to you?
Something inside of me wants to hunt. You can't stay here. It's not safe.
Michael, this is your chance to set things right.
Are you here to heal the world or to destroy it?
I don't know.
Morbius, a new Marvel Legend, arrives only in theaters.
Now, I actually saw this in theaters. I brought a friend with me, and he said, "Why did you make me do this?"
It also like Matt Smith's reaction to Karen Gillan after this movie?
No, I don't think I saw that.
Oh, well, apparently one of the reasons Matt Smith did the movie is because he talked to Karen Gillan. For those who don't know, they did Doctor Who together. She was Amy Pond, he was the 11th Doctor. It was a very big thing. And they're decently good friends as a result of that. But like she had said, that being Nebula was just so fun and just a great experience, and she recommended it. And that was not the only reason, but part of the reason why he accepted doing a Marvel comic book movie. And then it kind of backfired on him. Although, I still haven't seen it, but from pretty much everybody I talked to, it's like, yeah, no, Matt Smith was good as much as he could be within the parameters of that movie, but it's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, like I said, this has the participation medal for 3 different categories. And this is another example of Sony trying to make movies about Spider-Man characters without Spider-Man in them. And here's the thing. This character, even Jared Leto playing him, he would have made for an interesting villain in a Spider-Man movie. And it's kind of funny after seeing No Way Home, where you realize that so many of Spider-Man's villains are scientists who have experimented on themselves. Michael Morbius is another scientist who experiments on himself. But in Sony's attempts to just keep holding on to the Spider-Man brand, they continue to make more and more movies about Spider-Man characters without including Spider-Man and trying to make the villain the main character. It just felt like a movie from like the mid 2000s. It was like a worse version of the first Venom.
Could they have not like linked it to Blade?
Well, Blade is in at the MCU now.
Oh yeah, right, because they didn't do
Yeah, the worst part, more people talked about the post-credit scene, which ties it into No Way Home, and and it kind of backdoor sneaks it into the MCU through because Michael Keaton's Vulture is involved, and it's just nonsensical.
Yeah. Which is unfortunate because I want to see Michael Keaton's Vulture again, but not like this.
Yeah, so this is...
They did the same thing with Venom 2, so like...
Yeah. They're making they have a Kraven the Hunter movie coming out with Aaron Taylor Johnson in the role.
See, to me, that one is more egregious than Morbius. Like, the concept of Kraven the Hunter having his own solo film, to me, is worse than Morbius having his own solo film.
Fair.
Because
so anyway,
at least Morbius is kind of a different... It's supernatural. It's a different kind of aspect being added onto it, and it can kind of work. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
This could have worked as part of a Spider-Man movie, but it does not work on its own. Number 10. This movie has participation medals in 5 categories.
And still managed to beat
Morbius.
Wow.
It is the lowest grossing movie box office wise, domestic and international. Neither of us saw it, so it's naturally at the bottom of our lists, and it's one of 3 of the anime movies that didn't get a cinema score.
Oh, okay.
So this movie has an average score of 7 across the board. This is the quintessential quintuplets, the movie.
Okay.
For years, I felt like that was all that mattered.
We'll all stick together wherever we are. Over here!
Okay.
Uesugi's a popular guy, I guess.
Then I guess things are over between us.
You sure got yourself involved with a crazy group of siblings.
Our time together is never pointless.
By the way, black tea's Nino, green's Miku, juice is Yotsba, and canned coffee is Itsuki.
That's not fair.
Sometimes we might come across as a little weird, but I'll always love it exactly the way it is.
Cheers, everyone!
Fine. I mean, we're all 1/5 of each other, right?
I swear, those 4 haven't changed since high school. Still nothing but trouble.
Oh,
here's the thing. This is...
Oh! I didn't even realize that was an anime movie. I didn't know it existed, but I do know what the quintessential quintuplets are.
I was this close to seeing this movie. I have actually watched the shit. Like, this is for people. There's 4 anime films on this list, and they're all kind of different because the quintessential quintuplets movie, it's basically a finale. The manga series had 2 seasons of anime adapted, and then they made this film as a way to show the ending of the story. And I was this close to going to see it because I'd watched both seasons. I was emotionally invested. I wanted to see how it ended, but there was just a part of me that couldn't bring myself as a guy just to go to the movie theater to watch this anime rom-com about this guy who has like 5 quintuplet sisters that'll have a crush on him. I just couldn't get over myself to get into the theater to watch it because I wanted to know. This says how the story ends and how, which sister he ends up marrying, because that's teased up in like the first episode, is that he ends up marrying one of these sisters, but then the mystery, it's like How I Met Your Mother, you don't know who it is.
Oh. See, I don't like that as much as, the setup for My Hero Academia or History's Strongest Disciple Kenichi. Where like what the ending is, but you're still, because I think it's more challenging, but also just a better feat to tell people in the first page of your manga how this is gonna end, but then still make them care. Well,
I mean, I was emotionally invested because again, I wanted to find out who it was, and like most harem romance shows, of course everyone has their. And I still haven't looked up the final answer because I want to kind of experience it.
Oh. According to you, who is best girl?
Yeah, it has 2 silver medals. Like, it has the second best audience rating for Rotten Tomatoes and the second best IMDb score.
Oh, so
but
it just is where our bias of like me being the only person from the Bachelor community who voted and you getting your vote counts pretty highly in it.
Yeah, it's like if I had seen the movie, I probably would have enjoyed it and it probably would have been farther up the list, but I just couldn't get over myself.
So despite the fact that it just breaks top 10, it might be a lot better. By the sounds of it, probably is a lot better than some of the other movies we're going to talk about.
All right, here we go. Moving on. In 9th place, with an average score of 6, this is a film that the only status this film has is that it shares a bronze medal with 2 other movies for cinema score. It has nothing noteworthy about it otherwise. This is Black Adam.
Black Adam.
We're here to negotiate your peaceful surrender.
I'm not peaceful. Nor do I surrender.
It's his darkness that lets him do what heroes cannot.
The battle you're meant to fight is upon us. There's no one on this planet that can stop me.
Black Adam, rated PG-13, October 21st.
Oh, okay. Actually, I was expecting it to be pretty low, so I guess I think I was kind of expecting some of the other anime movies to like default lower too, but I guess being if you and I are the only people who really voted on them and we have an idea of what the anime movies might have been, that bias is probably less large than it would be in other years.
Yeah, so Black Adam, I mean, The Rock he kept saying the hierarchy of power is about to change.
You know, if that hadn't like basically become a meme, I think I might have given it more points.
I mean, here's the thing. I saw this movie with Dan Hatton. It was enjoyable. I didn't hate it. It just, like Morbius, felt like a superhero movie from 15 years ago in terms of how unoriginal it was. And it was kind of head-scratching how they tried to fit it into the DCEU. And as I said in our episode on Black Adam, they should have never made a movie about Black Adam. Like, they should have just made him the villain of the Shazam movie.
Yeah. Especially, like, I mean, come on. Who doesn't want to see The Rock? I think I said that in the episode too, that I would watch that fight, you know? Especially because, like, I can't remember. Does, I forgot his name. The guy who plays Shazam.
The Rock?
No, the guy who plays Shazam.
Oh, plays Shazam. Sorry, Zachary Levi.
Zachary Levi isn't one of the people who bulked up for the role.
He did put on muscle, but then there was also padding in the suit.
Yeah, but it was mostly just padding, right? So, I don't know. I just feel like him facing off against The Rock would just be funny.
Yeah, it is a shame. Like, you could tell that this was a passion project for The Rock, that he put a lot of his own, he helped produce it himself. But in the end, he, it's been made public now that he's not returning as Black Adam and future DC stuff. So,
well, okay, but the DCEU is in shambles. I mean, 2 members of the Justice League are not coming back. 1 member of the Justice League has like 4 actors that may or may not play him. Like, it's kind of a disaster. Like, it's one thing when your side characters are switching actors and people might or might not notice, but like, when 3 of the main 6 are iffy, that's a problem.
Yeah, and like Morbius, more people talked about the post-credit scene for the movie than the actual movie itself, which is never a good sign.
No. Although, it's also a little bit telling that people are putting so much emphasis on those post-credit scenes because, like, especially because the way that they've evolved, they are now almost exclusively trying to be a tie-in, and people are paying more attention to that, which is unfortunate in some ways because I feel like there is this build-up in expectations to have the tie-in make more sense, but at the same time, I feel like you could get away with just making a good movie not have it tie in and have a post-credit scene for fun, you know, but very few movies are actually doing that, especially superhero movies.
Yeah, this almost is like Dark Phoenix to me, where, you know, I don't even know if I would want to rewatch this because it teases Henry Cavill's return as Superman, which we now know isn't happening.
Yeah, but at least it didn't say that the third movie in the series is always the worst one, and then proceeded to be the worst one.
All right, sorry, Dwayne. The hierarchy of power has changed, and it's not with you at the top, unfortunately. Number 8.
But he was right, because Superman is changing.
He was right,
So
yes.
Maybe The Rock was just the whole time teasing the fact that Henry Cavill wasn't coming back as Superman.
You know, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. All right, number 8. This is a film that has 1 silver medal and, again, ties for a bronze medal. This is Thor: Love and Thunder.
Gods of the universe, I come here to raise an army. Today, we'll fight!
I'm counting on that.
How exciting! Feel the power of
Thor: Love and Thunder. Rated PG-13 this Friday.
Yeah, I can see that. I still haven't seen it, but I've seen more of it, and it makes me a little bit sad that it isn't better than it is. Like, cuz I don't know, there was potential there, but again, it's one of those things, like, it's hard to tell where it went wrong exactly. Because there were a lot of good things going into it, but then a lot of them seem to have been dropped pretty quickly. And then others just seem to be a waste.
To me, this just wasn't the movie to make. They queued up Thor doing things with the Guardians at the end of Endgame. Clearly, Taika Waititi, who had directed the third Thor, didn't want to do that. So he found a way to kind of write them out of the story and then continue whatever story he wanted to tell. He filmed like 4 hours of content. Like, there were actors who confirmed they were filming stuff for this that are not in the final cut.
Yeah. But also like, the other thing is, like, it was somewhat trying to do a big comic book arc. Because the God Killer, I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I tried to do Gore the God Butcher and the Mighty Thor.
Yeah.
While also keeping Chris Hemsworth Thor there. It was just...
It was there was a lot, but even just having Gore, like, was ambitious. Because he is technically a recurring villain, but he is mostly set on his, like... He had his run in the comic that was pretty iconic, and then people kind of slot him here and there, but he's not recurring the way that, like, Ultron is a recurring villain, or Doctor Doom, right? Like, he wasn't that big, and he mostly just fought Thor, so it seemed like almost, once again, trying to do an iconic comic run into a movie, and that's never worked. Like, except kind of Civil War, but, the movie Civil War has nothing to do with the comics of Civil War.
Yeah, so there were some parts that made me laugh, but, like, a lot of people don't like the comedy in this. Some people have even said this has put Taika Waititi's career in jeopardy, that no one's going to put him in charge of a big project now.
I mean, maybe, but if he keeps doing indie projects, I don't think he'll be unhappy. They're like,
no,
because Pirate Show did really well.
Oh yes.
So
yeah, the only thing Thor: Love and Thunder can claim is that it's the second highest grossing film internationally.
Oh, okay.
But it's like the 4th highest grossing film domestically. So people overseas, I guess, like Thor more than we did.
So maybe Taika Waititi is just not the director for America.
All right, in 7th place, This film has 2 bronze medals and 1 silver medal.
Oh.
DC League of Super Pets.
Oh, I'm sorry it's scored so low because you really enjoyed that.
Behind every great hero is their pet.
I'll be posing under my secret identity. Bark Kent.
My dog's the best, but he's not the greatest.
With others.
Hey, Lois.
Dwayne Johnson, Kevin Hart.
Batman works alone, except for Robin and Alfred. Commissioner Gordon. You ain't normal, man.
Super Pets.
I have you in my lasso of truth. Oh, you want the truth? The boots are a bit much.
Rated PG, July 29th.
I did enjoy it. Tater Tot and I saw it at a drive-in theater. I think we didn't do an episode on this movie, but I remember talking about it, and I said
we talked about it a decent amount. Though.
Yeah, it was weird because I couldn't tell who this movie was for, because some of the humor was like clearly like more geared towards adults. Some of the humor was clearly aimed at like little kids. Like it didn't fit well into that it didn't like do like the Incredibles or something that kind of appealed to everybody. It's like the humor was either here or here.
Sorry, it sounds like it was trying to be like the Lego Batman movie.
Kind of, but then it also just had like for example, a character who kept swearing, but then they were set like bleeped out, and it's like that's pretty I would say inappropriate for like small children, and then you're supposed to make them laugh at like, you know, censored swearing. And
well, unless he was clearly not swearing and that's what was censored, but
no, they were clearly like saying, like intending the person,
that's unfortunate
character, to say swear words. But all to say, it was a charming movie. It got me. I think if you've owned a pet, then it's easier to connect with this one.
That's probably why even if I watch it, it's not going to go higher for me. I mean, I have owned a goldfish, but other than the fact that it lived an outrageously long amount of time, I don't have much attachment to it.
Yeah, and I don't know if they're going to do any more with this, especially since Dwayne Johnson plays Crypto, and he's been kind of kicked out of the DC universe as Black Adam. I don't know if he'll stick around to play, you know, the super dog.
Who knows? Maybe.
But I would certainly like to see more things like this. To me,
I mean, this project did better than Black Adam, so maybe he will.
Yeah, by our standards, it did better. Black Adam definitely made more money, but it also cost less to make, and this was better than Black Adam. I'm not going to try and pretend.
Yeah, that's true, though. Animation is expensive.
So, good job, Crypto. And also just the Kevin Hart, Dwayne Johnson dynamic. It works even in animation.
Well, that's good to know.
In 6th place, we have the movie with the dumbest title, Dragon Ball Super. Superhero.
Oh, okay.
Piccolo! That was an underwhelming performance. I was expecting a lot more out of you. The return of the Red Ribbon Army is near! This world needs a hero. I just picked up some new intel on who the villains are.
Gohan, it's do or die time, so draw out all of your strength.
Rated PG-13.
My Hero Academia didn't get a theatrical release this year, so they did it in Dragon Ball Z instead.
So I saw this one in theaters twice.
But you were both a superhero and a Dragon Ball Z fanboy, so it makes sense.
Yes.
And it is based around Saiyaman, right? Because he's got the superhero persona.
So the superheroes they're referring to, it has nothing to do with Saiyaman, actually. It's like new.
Oh,
it's
okay.
Like this movie. So I mentioned there's different kinds of anime films on this list. This one, it's kind of an in-between quote, because the entirety of Dragon Ball Super is supposed to take place in the 10-year gap at the end of the series. And then this particular film is supposed to be after the Dragon Ball Super series, and then after the Broly Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, but before the end of Dragon Ball Z. Does that make sense?
So like between the Broly movie and the tournament where Goku fights against Oob.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh.
So this film was interesting because it was computer animated. It was the first time a Dragon Ball film had been computer animated, and I was very skeptical of this going into it, mainly because the animation done for the Broly movie was so good in 2D.
Yeah, it was.
And then the few moments where there was 3D and that it didn't look good, and I was like, oh no, a whole movie in 3D. But to my surprise, it actually, like, they found a way to make Toriyama's art style work in 3D.
Well, there's also been like a few pretty high-end video games for Dragon Ball Z recently that have helped with that.
Yes, the only place where it is that you could tell with the lip movements that they were more specifically animated to the Japanese dialogue.
Right,
and
but
so
that's hard to like.
Yeah, I'm just saying that was the only place
for anime to overcome generally.
Yeah. And I think I spoke about this briefly in the podcast too. This is definitely if you compare it to the Broly movie, it is a much smaller scale event. Like, it's written in a way that the most powerful characters are unavailable to help with the conflict. So characters like Gohan and Piccolo, who are not given the focus very much, actually take center stage in this one, which I think just for the sake of variety, I actually really appreciated. And it's of the movies that like it has a silver medal for my rankings. This is actually like the highest rating, the second highest rating I gave a movie this year.
Nice.
And then it probably would have done better, but again, it didn't get a rating on Cinema Score, so it's in dead last for that one.
Yeah.
But that's the nature of
we know our biases films. And we dealt with it.
Yeah. From what you saw of superhero, like, did it seem interesting to you?
Gohan is like my least favorite character.
What about Piccolo?
I do like Piccolo a fair amount, but also like his dynamic with Gohan was good when Gohan was a kid, but then it kind of devolved. I don't know maybe if this movie went into that, I might be interested in seeing that part of it, but overall not really.
I think you should watch this because a big part of this is basically Piccolo kind of telling Gohan off, being like, what are you doing? Why aren't you training? Like, don't you see the potential you have?
Oh, okay. Maybe.
So
why didn't
also Pan in this movie is very, like, she's, for anybody who's a Dragon Ball,
this movie?
Pan has a major role in this movie. She's like,
I'm not watching it for sure.
No, listen, she's way better than she was in GT. She's a way better character here.
I hope so.
All right, moving on. In fifth place, average score of 5, so it's in the right spot. This movie has a gold medal, a silver medal, 2 bronze medals, and 1 participation medal.
Okay, I think I know what it is then.
This is One Piece film, Red.
That's why I'm bringing this world into a new age. One where you all can be happy.
Look, it's me!
Luffy? When are you so chummy with Princess Uda?
Tell us! It's forever. Uda is Shanks' daughter.
My music will set you free, then we'll all live happily together in peace.
One Piece film, Red.
What's the gold medal for?
The gold medal, it ties for first in Cinema Score. It got a solid A in Cinema Score. Surprisingly, this One Piece movie was the only anime film this year that got that Cinema Score bothered to do an evaluation of.
Interesting. Well, I mean, it was a pretty big... I mean, it's a One Piece movie. One Piece is still huge, and like...
Yes.
One Piece is also ramping up recently, and like the manga did make a pretty big deal out of randomly making Shanks show up in the manga for a few chapters to set up the movie. So
yes, and its participation medal comes from me because I have not seen this, so it's in last place for me. So again,
okay,
if I had seen, like, I could have gone to see this in theaters. I was like, I'm just not a big One Piece person. So it didn't really capture my attention.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen it. What I've heard about it was good, and also just it's One Piece backstory, and I'm a big fan of anything that goes into the depth of storytelling and of planning and execution that went into the One Piece story, because like I remember having this conversation with a friend like not a week ago, because we were both on holidays, and he's like, yeah, I started rereading parts of One Piece, and man, Ichiro Oda is good at writing manga. And it's like, yeah, he really is. And at world building specifically, because we were talking about it as dungeon masters from a like world building point of view. And it's like, yeah, no, like it's crazy how good he is at this. And anything that can show that off and go into the, kind of into the adding more to certain characters that might not get it in the main storyline, I'm a fan of.
So I mentioned that all these anime films are kind of different. The Quintuplets was a sequel to the series. Dragon Ball Super, it's like an in-between-quel. Whereas this One Piece movie is kind of like a side story. It's kind of like it's
a prequel side story.
Well, it's a side story to their main adventures, but then it dives into the backstory of a character who is who is important to the Luffy, right?
Yeah, and the universe kind of ish. Yeah. Shanks is in a weird spot in the One Piece lore at this point, so I think it was a good time to go into it too.
Right. Now, you're a One Piece fan, but you read the manga. I mean, if you had more availability, would you have made a point to go to see this in the theater?
Yes.
Okay, so that says something.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I haven't seen hardly any of these movies because it's harder and harder to go see movies for a number of reasons, Jam Jam being the major one. But, like, that was on this list of the movies that I haven't seen. That was one of the few where I actually kind of regret. Like, I think of the ones I haven't seen, it's really between that one and Love and Thunder that I wanted to see. And then, in retrospect, probably wanted to see Wakanda Forever, but maybe not. Again, I got Marvel fatigue. Had it for years.
So like I said, yeah, this One Piece film has done well. It's gotten 4 medals within each category. So I'm sure it's a good quality film. I can't speak to if the animation is like a step up from the show or not.
I mean, the animation of One Piece right now is really good.
All right, we're getting closer towards the bottom here. In 4th place, this movie is, in some senses, tied for a lead, you could say, because it is tied. It has 3 gold medals.
Oh wow!
But also 2 participation ribbons.
Okay, Jujutsu Kaisen?
That's right, Jujutsu Kaisen 0, the movie.
The curse that was placed upon you. It's a curse that can save people too, depending on how it's used.
I don't want to hurt anyone anymore.
Learn how to use that power. You can cast it all away later, if you still decide to.
This is not a place for the curse to be hanging around.
Do be careful now, you two. Try not to die. To break a curse, you must first understand curses.
Now, again, so this is the final anime film we're talking about for this year. This one is different because it's a prequel to an anime or a manga anime television series, which, I mean, I've heard about Jujutsu Kaisen as like one of the new popular shonen animes. I just haven't seen it. So when I heard there was this prequel movie coming out, I was like, I haven't seen the main one. Why would I go watch a prequel?
There's an interesting thing where, like, I know a decent amount about Jujutsu Kaisen because I have 2 or 3 students that have done a book report on Jujutsu Kaisen because I allowed they had an independent project which they could do on a manga if it was at least covering if it was at least covering 3 volumes of a manga or 2, I can't remember. But I gave them like the option of doing a graphic novel or a manga if it had a certain amount of pages or a certain amount of things. And so I'm vaguely aware of the Jujutsu Kaisen lore and what it is, and it sounds like it's good, but I also it wasn't high on my radar. I read the first arc of Chainsaw Man during the holidays, and that was as much as I could muster on the new stuff. I don't know. I'm an old fart, and I like what I used to like, but I also like, yeah, much like I don't have a lot of time to go watch movies, I don't have the time to get invested into several seasons worth of a new anime, especially because I'm showing a lot of my back catalog to Mjolnir. So like, if we're watching anime, it's usually going to be me showing her stuff that I already like so that she can see it. So
yeah. So again, it's, people will acknowledge that anime films kind of get the shaft in this, because if we haven't seen them and they generally don't get rated on Cinema Score, that means they're automatically at the bottom. So it has a participation medal from me because I haven't seen it, and then one from Cinema Score because it wasn't a large enough release to get that experience. However, it has 3 gold medals. It has the highest Rotten Tomato critic score, the highest Rotten Tomatoes audience score, and it's tied for the highest IMDb score. Wow. So it sounds like the people who have seen this movie really like it. And
I know the animation for Jujutsu Kaisen generally has been really good, so I have to imagine the movie probably does a very good job of it too.
Yeah, and the fact that it made it to number 4 on this list, like the highest ratings of all the anime films that we're talking about today, probably says something about the quality of the film. Again, it might even rank higher if I had actually seen it.
Although, I don't know, if you had just seen the prequel to a show that you haven't watched, you might not enjoy it as much.
So speaking of medals, we're now getting into the medalists. If you're thinking through the movies in your head, you're realizing there's only 3 left. So that means these are our official medalists for this year.
Wait, what's the third one? I 2 of them it's obvious, and I knew they were going to be those. I can't remember what the last one would be.
So here we go. Our bronze medalist. Our bronze medalist in 3rd place with an average score of 4. This film has 1 gold medal, 2 silver medals, and ties for 1 bronze medal. This is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Really?
Doctor Strange. I always suspected this day would come. Because you always suspected this day would come. I'm ready.
On May 6th, nothing can prepare you for the mind-bending descent into madness.
This is the only way.
Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Rated PG-13. See it in premium large formats and IMAX.
Actually, no. I guess Wakanda was going to beat it. I thought it was going to be Wakanda Forever, but
so
we did an episode on it. I can acknowledge there are problems with it, but I think it's the one. It's one of the 2 that it's in my top 2 for the most enjoyment.
Yeah, I think I saw the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once after seeing Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And after seeing that movie, I was like, this is what I wanted the Doctor Strange movie to be.
Yeah.
No, it was more like they should have called that Multiverse of Madness, because it was more what I was hoping for. And Multiverse of Madness, it teed up all these cameos that ended up not being there.
Yeah.
A lot of people have issues with how Scarlet Witch was used in the movie.
My wife being one of them. Yeah, no, like, I think the problem, I think, is they overhype Multiverse of Madness too. Like, I feel like the biggest thing that it going against it was that a lot of things started getting overhyped around it. I still think it's a solid movie in some aspects of it, and it does also kind of feel like a little bit similar to how like Ant-Man and the Wasp felt, that it was like, oh, this was directed by Edgar Wright, this was not. That movie definitely had like, well, this is Sam Raimi doing Sam Raimi things, and then later on, oh yeah, no, this is the MCU doing MCU things.
Yeah, I will credit the film for being unique. It stands out among MCU films. And the anticipation for this was clearly very high because, yeah, in terms of international box office, this is the highest grossing film of the year. It's the 2nd highest grossing comic book film domestically. It's the 2nd highest rating you gave to a comic book film this year.
Yep. I enjoy
so it it has its fans and it has its not fans, but it's still in third place out of 11. Like, to be third, even though it wasn't what everyone was hoping for, I think that still says something.
Yeah, but I think unfortunately it says something more about the other movies that came out rather than it.
Yeah. All right, our silver medalist in second place. This film has 2 gold medals and 2 bronze medals. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever.
Oh, good. I'm glad this gets second because it means the right movie is on the top.
I need to know if Wakanda is an ally or an enemy.
You can come and find out.
Black Panther Wakanda Forever, rated PG-13.
Now, this one is going to be available on Disney Plus as of February 1st, probably to line up with Black History Month. So, Beaver, hopefully you'll be able to get a chance to watch it.
Yeah.
Although it is like 2 hours and 45 minutes long, so it is pretty long.
Yeah. I don't know. I've given thought to actually. I hate doing this usually, but I've realized maybe I'll have to for some movies, just watching them in more than one chunk.
Now, if we were just going off of domestic box office, this is the highest grossing comic book film of the year. Globally, like if you combine domestic and international, Multiverse of Madness does edge this out.
Wow.
Because Doctor Strange made way more overseas than Black Panther did.
But we talked about that. I think that does make sense.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And unfortunately, this Wakanda Forever could not reach the success of the first film. I don't know how much of that has to do with like Chadwick Boseman not being around and them having to pivot what they wanted to do for this movie, and they had to kind of make it reactionary too. I still maintain what I said in our episode on it, is that they should have just recast him, just have somebody else play T'Challa, because I feel like the story they wanted to tell would have been a better one. And then the end result, of course, this movie is very sad, and like people weren't as keen about watching it again.
Yeah, I mean, again, I haven't seen it, but I do like. Yeah, I don't. I do think though that it might. It's a weird thing, right? Because the two Black Panther movie both have this kind of like weird thing around it that probably inflates some of the reception to it. Like, I definitely thought that the first movie, it was a good movie. It was a great movie even, but it wasn't as good as people made it out to be but it was an important movie in some ways, but people blew that out of proportion. And I feel like this one hopefully won't have too much of that, but it does, have a big asterisk beside it that if, that kind of like hurts its timelessness maybe, or might hurt its timelessness, is that like, no, this is very linked to events that happened at the time. And a lot of the emotional appeal of it might still stick with that. So we'll see what the future gives. Let's talk about number one.
Well, just to say again, all the actors gave it their all in this.
Yeah.
You could tell that they wanted to act their hearts out, and they portrayed the journeys their characters were going on very well. Namor was an interesting villain, but yeah, I don't think it was the right movie to make. All right. So before we announce the number one comic book film there, we'll just go through the list one more time.
All right.
Why don't you call out the numbers and I'll say the names.
All right. Number 11.
Morbius.
Number 10.
The Quintessential Quintuplets, the movie.
Number 9.
Black Adam.
Numero 8.
Thor, Love and Thunder.
Numero 7.
DC League of Super Pets.
Numero 6.
Dragon Ball Super, Superhero.
Numero 5.
One Piece film, Red.
I can't think of another language. I probably could do it in Japanese. Number 4.
Jujutsu Kaisen 0, the movie.
Number 3.
Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Number 2.
Black Panther, Wakanda Forever.
And number 1, scientifically proven by an undisputable factoid way of choosing movies for the 2022.
The Batman.
Yeah, it is.
What's black and blue and dead all over?
This is a powder keg. And prisoners to match.
So, take it easy, sweetheart.
I've been trying to reach you.
What are you doing?
If this continues, it won't be long before you've nothing left.
I don't care what happens to me.
You're not so different. Who are you under there?
I'm vengeance.
Now, interestingly, the only areas where this film has 3 gold medals, 1 silver medal, and 2 bronze medals.
So 2 of the 3 gold medal are from us?
2 of the 3. That's right. So this was the highest rated film that I saw this year and that you saw. And then it is tied with Jujutsu Kaisen for the highest rating on IMDb.
Okay.
And then it's 3rd place both in domestic and international box office. And then it's tied for 2nd place with Super Pets for the highest cinema score.
Okay. Is it also 3rd place in combined?
Combined box office, I think it's actually like 4th, I think.
Yeah.
Because I think...
Well, I feel like the anime movies, they tend to make a lot of money.
No, sorry, I'm wrong. It is 3rd combined because Thor made a little less. If you add the domestic international, it made a little less than the Batman.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, well. It's...
So there we go. The Batman.
What were you expecting?
Yes. Well, I mean, I've given bad ratings to Batman movies before. It just says something that this was actually a good Batman movie.
Yeah, no, it was a great Batman movie. It was also a good movie. And it was like, I think there were a lot of things that I really appreciated that it did better than some of its predecessor tried to do. Like, it made Batman more of a detective, something that like the Dark Knight trilogy kind of paid lip service to and had that one scene that was supposed to be that, but it really wasn't that obvious. And it was mostly machines doing the work rather than him actually like thinking about things.
Yeah, you mentioned this.
Obviously, putting the Riddler as the villain helps.
Yes. Now you mentioned this being a good movie. Things I like, if I think of some of these other films, again, not to pick on Thor, but when I think of the Batman, I think of the cinematography, I think of the music, I think of even the editing.
Yeah.
I couldn't think about any of those things for Thor: Love and Thunder. Like, none of that stands out to me, but the Batman is just a well-made film, and I think that just enhances the experience.
Yeah, like, of the movies I've seen this year, like, the only thing that as a movie is in the same league, I would say, was Dune.
And that came out last year.
Oh yeah, it
came out in October 2021.
I might have seen... Was it in theaters long enough? Because I feel like I've seen it this year. Oh, maybe not. Yeah. But the only thing recently that was kind of its equal, I think... I mean, probably Everything Everywhere All at Once also, for some aspects of it, but I still haven't seen that, unfortunately. But probably is the only other one that goes around that. But, like, it was just... It was a good movie. Like, an excellent movie, very well made, very well thought out, and, like... Yeah, the third act had some.
Yeah, that's my only criticism of the Batman is that the ending is it's a little bloated.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's you can afford to do that when the rest of your movie works really well.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see more from this universe.
Yeah. And I'm also excited that DC is just doing things. Like, I am really happy that DC didn't try to link the Batman and the Joker.
Yes. Yeah. So there you go, folks. Yeah, again, looking at this list, the 2022 was not a great year for comic book films, and you've talked about Marvel fatigue. We've talked about superhero movie fatigue, and the thing I've always said is like the death of superhero movies are going to be a bunch of mediocre ones where it's going to kind of dilute the quality of the overall brand. And I think that's what we're starting to see now. Is
well, actually, I was gonna say that might be better than the implosion that pirate movies had, but then again, when pirate movies completely crashed and burned with Cutthroat Island, just nobody made them for a decade, and then a good one came out and people were okay with it again. Whereas, like, if there's just a bunch of mediocre ones, especially like, I mean, I know the ones who made more were some of the better ones, but you still, if you look at especially the domestic box office, these movies are still dominating, right? The superhero movies are still scoring pretty high up there, even the ones that we don't like or that aren't that great. So unfortunately, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So if it keeps making money, it won't stop. And I don't know, we'll see.
Please don't lean into too much the fact that the movie that we rated the highest has happened to come out number one. It's like that's anyway.
If you want to reach the show, you can send us an email at
batjarpodcast@gmail.com.
Or you can tweet us at
The Bat Cookie Jar.
You can find the Bat Jar Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, including YouTube, because we got a channel. Share our posts on Facebook, write reviews, give our shows a rating. This will help all people join us inside the Bat Jar, and we appreciate it dearly.
So normally, this is when we would go inside the Bat Jar to pull out a topic for next time, but I'm just realizing in my move, I didn't bring the Bat Jar with me.
Left the Bat Jar in Ottawa.
So now I'm kind of like, what do we do?
Is it like in storage, or could somebody ship it to you? Could somebody find it?
I guess what I could do is I could ask my roommate to... No, actually, I don't even remember where I packed it. Oh, no. How about for now, let's say we're going to do a preview of stuff coming out in 2023 in the next episode.
All right.
Movies and shows and stuff. And then if we end up doing something else, you'll find out in the next episode.
And yeah. We'll see if we can find the Bat Jar. If not, Average Joe will listen to every episode of the Bat Jar Cut podcast and write down things that were in the Bat Jar.
I mean, we do have a couple new topics from Dante, so maybe we could just pull from one of those. But
yeah.
But for now,
you should just preemptively watch Arcane.
For now, we'll say we're gonna do a preview of 2023 movies and shows in our next episode. So we'll see you next time. I'm Average Joe.
I'm Beef Pork Ribs.
Catch you on the flip side.
Watch Arcane.